Please don't shoot. I'll have your children if you spare me." The lonely rancher lowered his gun. But what happened next will shock you. The wind rolled low over the chaparral, whispering through brittle grass, stirring sun-baked bones half buried in sand. Colt Rourke didn't flinch. His rifle was steady. His boots were still. The figure ahead was small, but not a child. A girl, no, a woman. Young, barefoot. Her blonde hair was matted with sweat and blood, sticking to her dirt-smeared cheeks. Her arms were raised, trembling in surrender. And yet her voice carried through the heat like a gunshot. "Please don't shoot. I'll give you strong children if you spare me." The words hung crooked in the air. Colt blinked. She didn't cry, didn't run, just stood there shaking but upright. Her dress was torn across one thigh. Dust caked to the blood beneath. Her lips were cracked, her eyes dry, blue like glass left too long in the fire. "I'm not a whore," she added, quieter, "but I'd rather bear your sons than rot in that canyon." Colt's trigger finger twitched. She was alone. No horse, no water. She couldn't have been older than 18. "What's your name?" he asked. "Elsie May." "Why were you running?" She looked past him toward the north ridge. "Because they hunt for fun, and I ain't sport." Silence. Then the slow metallic shift of a hammer uncocking. Colt lowered his rifle. Colt wasn't the type to talk. Not to men, not to women, not even to his own damn horses. But he let her ride with him. Elsie May sat slumped behind his saddle, fingers curled in his duster, eyes fluttering in and out of consciousness. The heat was cruel, the trail long. When they reached his homestead, a battered wood cabin surrounded by nothing but fence, bone and sorrow, she nearly collapsed getting off the horse. "You got a doctor?" she asked, rasping. "No." "A woman? Anyone?" He shook his head once. She gave a breathless laugh and whispered, "Course not." She didn't ask for more, just staggered toward the water trough and drank like a dog, tears streaming down her dirt-stained face. He turned away, jaw locked. That night, she slept in the hayloft. He left a blanket but didn't say a word. When he rose at dawn, she was already outside, trying to sweep the front steps with a busted broom. 3 days passed before Colt Rourke rode into Dead Elm with her. He hadn't planned to, but Elsie May had started limping worse. The gash on her leg had gone from red to something angry purple and hot. He'd tried to clean it with whiskey. She bit her lip so hard she bled, didn't scream once. That earned her a kind of reluctant respect. "Need salve and bandages," he muttered the next morning as he saddled the horse. She just nodded, too weak to argue. Her eyes were sunken but defiant. She held herself like someone who'd crawled through hell and was ready to keep going barefoot. Colt helped her up, her body folded awkwardly behind him, arms wrapped loosely around his waist, but she didn't rest her head on his back, too proud for that. Dead Elm wasn't much, just a clapboard street with a half-dead saloon, a one-room general store and a post office that doubled as a place for gossip, whiskey, and wanted posters. Colt hadn't been there in nearly 6 months. He hadn't been missed, but as he rode in, folks noticed. Not him, the girl. Her blonde hair tied back now with a strip of linen, still glinted through the grime. Her cheek was sunburned. The hem of her dress flapped torn at her calf, revealing the festering wound. And her face, God, that face. Young, pretty, fierce, too young to be his wife, too rough to be his whore. And yet there she was, clutching him like he was all that stood between her and the undertaker. "That her?" a voice muttered near the porch of the saloon. "Hell, maybe. Ain't she the Harper girl? From up near Widow's Pass?" "No, Harper girl's dead. Burned out with her folks last fall." "Then who the hell's she?" They didn't ask Colt. Nobody ever asked Colt. He didn't invite conversation. He gave the kind of look that could gut a man from 20 paces. But the whispers followed them like dust. At the general store, old Miss Lorna barely blinked as Colt grunted out what he needed. She handed him the salve, bandages, clean cloth, and a jar of something that smelled like mint and hell. "That for the girl?" she asked. Colt stared. Didn't ask her name. "Just want to know if she's in trouble." He said nothing, just laid the coins down and picked up the sack. "If you brought a storm to this town, Colt Rourke," Lorna said quietly, "I hope you're man enough to bury the bodies after. He left. They didn't make it far past the chapel when a young deputy stepped into the road. Badge crooked on his chest, hat too clean, must have been fresh out of Fort Mavis. Colt didn't recognize him. "Sir," the boy said, resting a hand on the butt of his gun, "I'd like to speak to the young lady riding with you." Elsie May tensed behind him. Her grip tightened. Colt didn't stop the horse. "Sir," I said, "I heard you. You can't just ride off." Colt turned in the saddle, slow and deliberate. "That a warrant on your hip or just decoration?" The deputy flushed. "She fits a description. So does half this damn territory. Sir, she may be a fugitive. She ain't yours." The boy took a breath, uncertain. Elsie May lifted her chin. "If I'm wanted, tell me the charges. Tell me what I stole, who I hurt." The deputy's mouth opened, then closed again. "Didn't think so," Colt growled. Then he clicked his tongue and rode on. They left town in silence. Back at the ranch, he helped her down. Slower this time. She winced, but didn't make a sound. Inside, she sat at the kitchen table while he boiled water. He unwrapped her leg carefully, revealing the wound, raw and sickly, edges dark, center white with infection. She watched him. "You know what you're doing?" "No." "You gonna try anyway?" "Yes." She nodded once and let him. He worked quietly, hands rough but careful. When she cried out, just once, he paused, let her breathe, then went on. No words passed between them for almost an hour. When he finally finished, she slumped back. "Why'd you do it?" she asked. "Back there. Not hand me over." Didn't like his tone. That all? He met her eyes. They were sharp again, blue like winter sky. "That and you're still bleeding. Would have been coward's work. You care about honor, huh?" He didn't answer. She smiled faintly. "You're not what I expected. You neither." That night the coyotes howled, and for the first time in weeks she slept without dreaming of blood. 2 weeks passed. Colt found himself fixing the same fence post 3 times in one morning, not because it was loose, but because she'd come out barefoot, her dress tied up around her knees, and started sweeping the porch like she belonged there. He didn't say anything, just watched from the edge of the field. She limped less now. The salve had helped, but he knew that wasn't all of it. A girl didn't heal just because wounds closed. She healed because she wanted to live, and Elsie May, for all her cuts, scars, and silence, wanted to live bad. Sometimes she hummed, low, almost inaudible little bits of tune she didn't remember all the words to. At dusk she'd sit on the steps and wrap her arms around her knees, chin on top, staring west. "What are you looking for?" he asked one evening, voice like gravel. "Not what," she said. "Who?" He didn't ask again, but quiet doesn't last in Arizona. Not in 78. Not when you've got ghosts chasing your scent. They came at night, 3 men. Colt heard the horse hooves before the dogs even barked. Midnight, a full moon, no wind. He stepped onto the porch with his shotgun already cocked. Elsie May was behind him, barefoot, holding a kitchen knife with both hands. The lead rider was old, gray in the beard, scar over one eye. He wore a long coat and a red kerchief around his neck, the kind of man who didn't knock. "Even in," the rider said. "Not for you it ain't," Colt replied. The man dismounted slow, eyes on the girl. "Ain't you gonna say hello, Elsie?" She froze. Then, "Thought you were dead, Boone." "I was," he said. "Till you left me bleeding." Colt stepped between them. "She's under my roof." "Then your roof's gonna burn." Boone smiled. "She took something from me. My horse, my gun, and a little bit of pride. I'm here to collect." "She ain't yours. Everything out here's for the taking, mister." "You think so, try taking it." Boone paused, then backed off. "Not tonight," he said. "Not with your scattergun looking like it wants to marry me." He whistled. His men turned their horses. "We'll be back. Sun's hotter when it rises." And they rode off into the dark. Colt didn't sleep that night. Neither did she. He sat in the chair by the window, shotgun across his knees. She sat on the floor beside the fire, blade in her lap. "He was the first man who didn't beat me after buying me," she whispered. Colt didn't look at her. "Then he sold me to one who did. Called it fair trade." "Why'd you run?" "Because I wanted to be real." He finally glanced down. "And now? Now I want to live long enough to be a mother." That hit him deeper than a bullet. The next morning, she was gone. Colt stormed through the field, rifle in hand, found her half a mile east, kneeling beside a patch of thorn root, cutting it with a stick. "What the hell are you doing?" "Poison," she said. "You mix it with lard, you can dip bullets in it. You think I need poison? I think they'll come 10-3, and I'm worth dying over." "To who?" "To me." Colt stared, then knelt beside her, started digging. "You're a goddamn wildfire," he muttered. "You gonna try and put me out?" "No, ma'am, I'm just here to burn with you." It started the next night. Colt had known it would. Boone wasn't the type to bluff. A man like that, scarred, hunted, born wrong, he only left to come back meaner. Colt had seen that look before. In war. In the mirror. In men who'd lost too much to walk away without burning something behind them. They came with torches. Not guns first. Torches. To send a message. To make the girl scream. Colt was already on the roof by then. Rifle cocked. He'd poured lamp oil in a line down the ridge, just in case. Elsie May was in the cellar, with 2 bottles of whiskey, a jug of water, and a loaded revolver. She hadn't wanted to go. She'd begged not to. But Colt didn't argue. "You die out here," he'd said. "I die angry." "You die out here," she'd whispered back. "I die empty." They didn't kiss. They didn't touch. But it felt like goodbye. Boone and his boys came through the trees like shadows with fire in their fists. Colt waited until the first torch hit the side of the barn. Then he fired. The first man dropped without a sound. The second screamed, stumbled, caught his own damn torch in the face. Boone yelled something, a curse, a name, and the other men scattered wide. Colt moved, fast, smooth, down the ladder, across the dirt, rolled behind the water trough, shot again, clang of metal, wood splintering. Someone cursed in Spanish. "You coward bastard," Boone roared. "You hitting behind a girl? You're the one bringing 5 to kill 1, Colt shouted back. "She's mine. She's nobody's but her own." Then Colt heard it behind him. Movement. Fast. Too fast. He turned just as a figure leapt from the dark, not Boone. A boy, 17 at most, swinging a blade meant for cattle, not men. The steel caught Colt across the shoulder. He dropped the rifle, rolled, came up with the knife he kept in his boot, and drove it home. The boy gasped, stared at him like a child who didn't know where he was, then collapsed. Pain lit up Colt's arm like lightning. But he stood, bleeding, breathing, furious. Boone stepped from the trees finally, alone, torch in one hand, pistol in the other. "You killed my nephew," he said. "He tried to cut me. He was just a kid. So was she." They circled each other now. The fire from the barn cast everything orange and wrong. Boone moved first. The gunshot echoed so loud it silenced the desert. But Colt was already diving. The bullet missed his heart by an inch. He hit the ground hard, rolled, came up with the revolver he'd dropped earlier. Elsie May's revolver. Boone smiled, raised his pistol. "One of us dies tonight," he said. Colt didn't blink. "Then let it be the one who sold a girl to hell." 2 shots, 1 scream, 1 man fell. And it wasn't Colt. The sun rose over ash and blood. Colt stood beside the smoldering ruin of his barn, cradling his arm. Elsie May emerged from the cellar barefoot, covered in dust and sweat and tears. She ran to him. Didn't speak, didn't ask, just wrapped her arms around his chest and didn't let go. That night, the coyotes didn't howl. That night, they were quiet, as if even they knew something holy had been bought with fire. Spring came too early that year. The desert softened. Rain, real, stubborn rain, clung to the roof for days, cocassing green from places that had forgotten the word. And for the first time since the fire, the land breathed. So did they. Elsie May took to humming again, louder now. She sang while sweeping the porch, while boiling water, while fixing the seams on her only dress. Sometimes she'd laugh at nothing, or everything. She moved like a woman unafraid of being seen. Colt watched her, not like a man possessed, but like someone rediscovering something ancient, like beauty, like peace. He built her a door on the bedroom, gave her her own space. She tore it down 3 nights later. "I'm not scared of the dark anymore," she whispered. Still, Colt said, you deserve a choice. She looked at him a long time. Then I choose to stay. That was the first night they lay in the same bed. Nothing happened, not yet. He slept on top of the covers. She fell asleep holding his calloused hand beneath the quilt. A week later, she found the courage. I want a child. The words landed between them like a prayer. Colt didn't answer at first. He just looked at her, really looked. At her gold hair, brighter now in the sun. Her skin healthier, her body no longer gaunt but sturdy. Her eyes full of something he'd never seen in her before, hope. You sure? I want something that's mine. Not taken, not bartered. Something born of mercy. He nodded. Just once. And that night, they became more than survival. The weeks after that were slow and sacred. She planted squash by the window, built a scarecrow in his old coat, started keeping a journal. Colt caught her once, sitting under the cottonwood tree, sketching. You draw? I try? What's that? You. He squinted. The figure had wild hair and a long nose. Looks like a coyote with a shovel, she giggled. You look tired. I always look tired. Then I'm drawing truth. He snorted. By summer, she was round. Just barely. But enough to make her glow in a way he didn't know how to hold with words. She'd press his hand to her belly and say, feel that? That's us. Sometimes he did. Other times she just closed her eyes and smiled. I'm not scared of being a mother, she said one night. You should be. It's hard. So was surviving. But I did that. You did. With you. He kissed her then. First time. Slow. Reverent. And she didn't cry. The baby came in August. Hot wind, cracked sky. No midwife for 50 miles. Colt boiled water and barked orders at nobody. She screamed once, then bit down on a leather strap. 3 hours later, with sweat pouring down her temples and tears leaking from the corners of her eyes, not from pain but from awe, she held a boy in her arms. Tiny, fierce, red-faced and loud. He's loud like me, she whispered, and stubborn like me, Colt said, his voice thick. Poor thing, she smiled. Never stood a chance. She named him James Boone Rourke, to reclaim the name Boone as something healed. Colt didn't argue. That night, with the baby asleep between them, Colt whispered something she hadn't heard before. Thank you. For what? For making me a father without breaking me first. She took his hand. Thank you for not shooting me. Fall didn't come with leaves in the desert. It came with quiet. Even the coyotes held their tongues some nights. The baby, James Boone Rourke, had the lungs of a preacher and the fists of a boxer. Elsie May swaddled him tight, kissed his forehead raw, and hummed the same broken lullaby her mother had once sung in a kitchen lit by fire and fear. Colt had started talking more. Little things. He asked what she dreamed about, what name she'd give a second child, whether squash should grow near the beans. You thinking about another already? She teased once. I'm thinking you've got too much love for just one soul. She kissed his jaw when he said that. Didn't stop smiling for an hour. But peace has a habit of pulling its boots on quiet. And ghosts, they never die. They just wait till you're happy to come knocking. It was a Tuesday. Sky bone dry. Air tense. Colt had ridden into Dead Elm with a list of supplies and a pocket full of new calluses. Elsie May stayed behind, baby strapped to her chest, singing to the laundry line. In town, the sheriff, a broad-shouldered ex-cavalry man named Merritt, flagged Colt down near the dry goods store. You still got that girl up on your place? Merritt asked, chewing a twig. Colt didn't answer right away. Why? Had a man ride in from New Mexico. Claims he's her blood. Uncle or cousin, said she ran off with a baby that wasn't hers. Colt didn't blink. He give a name? Said his name's Harper. Talk smooth. Eyes don't blink right. Brought a lawyer with him. A lawyer? Yup. They're talking about custody. Over my son? That's where it gets ugly. Colt's jaw tightened. That baby ain't got an ounce of that man's blood. I believe you, Rourke, Merritt said. But law don't run on belief. It runs on paper. And they're coming with some. Colt rode home faster than the wind. He found Elsie May out front, baby on her hip, sun in her hair, face calm. But she knew something was wrong before he spoke. What is it? Your uncle's alive. He's no uncle of mine. He's claiming the baby. Over my dead goddamn body. That's what I told Merritt. She paused, eyes wide but steady. You believe me? I watched you give birth, May. No, she said softly. Not just that. You believe I'm worth fighting for? Colt stepped forward, cradled her cheek with his calloused hand. I believed it the second you asked me not to shoot. 3 days later, the lawyer came. Young, slick, smelling like town and arrogance. He came alone, on a bay mare, wearing polished boots that had never touched dirt. Colt met him on the porch. Elsie May stayed inside, rifle in hand, baby behind her. Mr. Rourke, the lawyer said with a thin smile, I represent the estate of one Thomas Harper. He claims blood relation to the young woman currently cohabiting with you, as well as concern for the welfare of the child. The child's mine, Colt said. There's no record of a marriage. Don't need a record to raise a son. But the court might disagree. We'd like to conduct a formal inquiry, with permission of course. Colt stepped forward. You got 1 minute to get off my land. Sir, I'm here to, 1. The lawyer didn't wait for 2, but the trouble didn't end there. Harper came himself. One night, uninvited, unarmed, but loud. He rode up like he owned the land and stepped down like he'd bought the stars. Elsie May, he called. You think you can run forever? You owe me blood, and I want what's mine. She appeared on the porch, rifle already leveled. You sold me, Thomas, she said. You traded me for 5 jugs of corn liquor and a pistol. You was wild. You needed breakin'. You broke my mother, not me. I'll take the baby, May. Over my bones. Colt stepped beside her. Harper grinned. You think you scare me, boy? Colt didn't blink. I don't want to scare you. I want you to understand that the next time you show your face, my son will be old enough to watch me bury you. Harper spat. You'll see me in court then. Bring a shovel. He did file papers. But something strange happened. Half the town, even the ones who never liked Colt, wrote letters for them. Said they'd seen the girl grow strong, seen the baby in her arms. Said she was more mother than half the women in town. And Merritt? Merritt lost the papers before they reached Tucson. Clerical error, he told Colt with a wink. Colt just nodded. But Elsie May wept for an hour. I didn't know people could stand for me, she whispered. Not until now. They don't stand for you, Colt said, holding her. They stand with you. 5 years passed. Not fast, not gentle, but honest. The land shifted again from dusty grief to something green and bearable. Colt rebuilt the barn with his own hands. Elsie May painted it blue on a whim. It peeled in the sun, but she didn't mind. She said it reminded her of sky. James Boone Rourke grew fast. He had Colt's stare, wide and still, and his mother's mischief. At 4, he could ride a pony bareback. At 5, he could outshoot a grown man with a slingshot and lie his way out of trouble with a grin so pure. Even Colt had to turn away to hide his smirk. The house changed too. It wasn't just a shack with walls now, it was a home. There were curtains, a rocking chair, a line of herbs drying above the stove, a Bible that had never been opened, and beside it, a baby shoe nailed to the mantel. To remind us, Elsie May said once, when Colt asked, of what? That everything small can grow if it's loved enough. One autumn evening, James wandered out behind the barn and found something in the dirt, an old rusted rifle. The same one Colt had lowered the day he met Elsie May. The boy picked it up, dragged it back to the porch. Mama, was this Daddy's? It was. Why's it all rusty? Because he didn't need it anymore. Why not? She kneeled down, brushed hair from her son's brow. Because he chose mercy once, and it gave him you. James thought about that, then nodded. Can I have it? Not yet, Colt said, stepping out with an armful of firewood. Not till you learn how heavy it really is. James furrowed his brow. It's not that heavy. It will be. That night, the fire cracked slow. Elsie May stood by the window, holding James in her arms. He'd fallen asleep clutching a wooden horse Colt had carved. His fingers curled around it like it held the whole world. Colt stepped behind her, wrapped his arms around them both. For a while they didn't speak, just breathed, listened, watched the desert glow gold and purple beyond the hills. You know what today is? She asked softly. No, 5 years to the day. Since Since I said please don't shoot. He smiled, tight, real. That day saved my life. She looked back. No, you saved mine. You just didn't know it yet. Later that night, after James had been tucked into bed and the fire had died low, Elsie May took Colt's hand and led him outside. The stars hung heavy overhead. Cicadas hummed. A breeze stirred the cottonwood branches. She held a match to a small pile of cedar and let it burn. The flames licked upward, casting soft shadows on their faces. Say it, she whispered. What? What you said when you first saw me. He hesitated, then gave in. I nearly shot you. No. After. He sighed. Then, almost shy. You said, please don't shoot. I'll give you strong children if you spare me. She smiled, eyes shimmering. And now I've got a strong child, a wife who built me back from ash, and a home I never thought I deserved. She stepped closer, laid her head on his shoulder. Then I guess the trade was fair. He kissed her temple. No, he whispered, it was mercy. And far above them, the stars blinked in agreement. No one else would ever know the story. No court would ever see the papers that weren't filed. No preacher would ever bless the vows, whispered over firelight. But the land knew. The land remembered. A girl once begged for her life and offered strong children in return. And the man with the rifle gave her more than mercy. He gave her a world. If you made it this far, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you.